Aloha. I wanted to do a particular video. I thought I was going to do a video on obelisks and the pyramids and the arcs that are all over the world, and how that relates to like transmissions of energies and electrical connections and Tesla kind of stuff, and trying to understand more of what that whole complex is that has been built by the ancient people and has been kind of synthesized into today's version of stuff like the Washington Monument and the sacred geometry that's on the streets of like Washington D.C., San Francisco, Chicago, all over the world. You can see these particular angles and structures and focus points of energy that are linked in with all the kind of Freemasonic stuff and that whole numerology, timings, along with the calendars, and everything has a numerological energy point. And sort of the obvious stuff that's out there was or is excuse me, are the pyramids that are all over the world, in Egypt, in Teotihuacan, the structures that are built to these particular designs, these angles. They all have a meaning, and this is like the introduction into the information that we are not allowed to go into because of the control grid as a whole, us being able to find ourselves and get more information. Information is really just energy. Energy is really just light. It's the absorption of light. Like, you get energy from the sun when you go out in the sun. Like, it brings life, it gives life. And why I was showing the definition of radiation is because it is in its source, it's really just like an energy emitter. It emits rays. So how that is interpreted by the system or the individual is completely up to the individual. We are existing within the university system, still within the white supremacy program, so our connection with light will be reflective of, no pun intended, of the relationship that the individuals who consider themselves to be white, their relationship to the sun and nature itself. So how I was seeing this whole thing with earlier videos I've seen, a lot of earlier videos that I've done, there's this connection with the sun, like the organic sun, not the dark sun of control, like the dead sun, not that sun. The sun that is the life giver, that you can see in like Ra in Egypt, and like Israel, like the whole etymology of all these words. The people of the sun in Teotihuacan, the Aztecs, the Mayans, connections with the sun. Really just not going into the specifics of the control grid, but just really kind of looking at it from energy as itself, and the human relationship to the sun and the moon, and water and the airs and the earth, being an actual conscious manifestation of all of those energies, like the electric energy of the sun and the magnetic energies of the moon, both radiating within each individual masculine and feminine designs, and what that is on each level, like what that actually means outside of the demonizing systems that have been placed in front of us to tell us what our connection to nature really is, because we really don't understand what is within this spectrum we call the visible light spectrum, let alone understand what is these wavelengths that are before and after the visible light spectrum. In fact, we are bombarded by the negative effects of light as a whole, and completely locked into the physical reality of, this is just how your life is, and this is how energy is. This is your relationship to the sun. If you go outside, you're gonna get burned. You can get a sunburn. Well, that shit only exists that doesn't exist for everybody like that, but that is the mainstream mentality with your relationship to the sun. That has a spiritual effect on you and your relationship. If you don't have that connection, and if you buy into that storyline, it exists in the ethers. So going back to what I was saying in the previous video of like falling in love and falling in fear, we're talking about vibrations. We're talking about energy. We're talking about like the energetic rays that you absorb and the energetic rays that you emit. And those wavelengths are largely based upon how you perceive your reality. So if you perceive your reality from a fear-based perspective, like a radio, microwave, infrared wave perspective, then you're really not making the most of your visible light energy, because you're stuck in like AM, FM frequencies, lower, longer wavelengths that take a longer time to experience time. Like it spreads out time to be more anchored in the physical reality. Whereas if you go into the life-giving spaces of ultraviolet, which is really just after violet, beyond the visible light spectrum, that's what ultraviolet means, which is what bees can actually see. Like bees can see this space, ultraviolet. They can see the nectar of life. They can see more that is there. See, when we're in the visible light spectrum, we can just see like oh, that's pretty. But we miss out on the nectar because we're caught up in how pretty this flower looks to us. And so when we get locked into see, like the natural beings, the energies who are in harmony with the earth plane and themselves are seeing more of reality. They are experiencing more of reality. The bees are seeing ultraviolet light in order to engage in their reality. They can see the nectars of life. They can experience that space. They have that connection. We absorb light from the sun and create light with our music, our art, our reproductive organs. We create other creator beings with the experience that we exist as. And if we are locked into a reality that is heavily televised, heavily weighed down by microwaves and lower vibrating energies, then you are actually de-evolving yourself into a space of the nil, like the nil. You're not even really a human anymore. You've been sucked into an almost a lower vibration, and like if we were to see just like animals, like an animalistic experience, instead of what your potential is beyond, within the visible light spectrum, and beyond that into the ultraviolet spectrums of absorbing energy, absorbing light, and emitting the frequencies that are beyond what we've just been told on a regular basis. And how I'm seeing this is that the ancients understood what our connections were. Like if we were bees and we can see ultraviolet lights, we could see the nectar of life. That's how I'm seeing like what these pyramids were. These pyramids were like a structure for us to create a power center that would be able to connect us to each other on a different wavelength than what we are normally communicating with on a regular basis. And these wavelengths that we are seeing in like Tesla stuff, and seeing in like the quantum field, and seeing, this is how I'm seeing like the Mandela effect stuff kind of get activated, is that these wavelengths, these communications are being more revealed to us because we are amping up our spaces outside of the control grid. And that, so if you're seeing these wavelengths at the top, they are shifting from this old radio, like see it as like back in the 40s when people would just sit around the radio and listen to the radio. Like that is a wavelength of conscious experience, and you are getting a download of your conscious experience from whoever is pumping out those energies. So like the pyramids could have been doing the same things back then with the obelisks and these arches that are all over the place. And that can go into, if it gets even further into the like the maxing out of possibilities, like how I'm seeing like what these things were. These weren't tombs. So when they say like the pyramids were built to be tombs, they're basically just telling you this is how we perceive our reality, the university system as the we, and that's dead. So they're telling you that energy is dead. So they use that for death, and then when you say, oh okay, yeah, those are just tombs, then you are killing off that connection, that understanding, that consciousness of what that really is, when in fact it could very well be the opposite of that, which is actually bringing life, activating life to the human relationship to nature and each other. And in that life is energy, and in that energy could be information and communication. It is information and communication, and this is what I feel Tesla was tapping into. And to see this be demonized and swept under the rug by the current system that we exist under right now, with the university system, the NASA programming, the globe model, it's a further separating of you from your maximum vibrations within and beyond the visible light spectrum of your conscious reality, and locking you into a dead, disconnected space of just barely existing. And the only way it really the pillars stay afloat is because the magic is still alive within your subconscious, and your subconscious is surrounded by these subliminal messages that are pumped out through the television energetic frequencies, those waves, those vibrations, the radio waves, the television waves. They are subliminally programming you through your visible light eyeballs, and your subconscious is keeping a grid alive in order to have you be subconsciously aware of things, but consciously completely unaware of your basic existence and your maximum potentialities. And your maximum potentialities go beyond just these frequencies that are locked in, like with stuff like these obelisks that are strategically placed all over the world. So, and they originated in Egypt. So the energies that were being harnessed with the pyramids in Egypt, in Mexico, in China, in Cambodia, all over the world, these energies that were locked into some kind of grid have been numbed. They've been shut down because we have consciously separated ourselves from that reality existing and have been actually flipped it into like a dead space, and it's been replaced with these garbage ass frequencies, these synthetic versions of that maximum potential, like the Washington Monument and the these obelisks, which are just really, how I'm seeing them, are just like, they're just antennas to the power center, which is like the pyramids. So you can see the individual as something like this too. Like, you have your the ways you experience your reality, your like your ears, your sensory, your senses, your five senses could be seen as like your obelisk, and in your heart could be seen as like your power generator, your pyramid that's locked in to the earth plane. So we've been separated from our heart spaces, our power centers, and you can see that as like the solar plexus being shut down too, with your willpower, your fire being taken away by the control grid, by the slave state mentality, and just replaced with your your synthetic versions of understanding your physical reality, and your so-called powers that be. So this stuff exists in a space that we can observe, but we're not really observing it. We're just like, it's just like walking by a piece of art that actually tells the story of life, and just being like, oh well, that's pretty. It's like, what the fuck? Like, don't you see what that says? Like, this is so far beyond, that's just pretty. And that's kind of like what happens to the feminine energy, and how the feminine energy has been locked into this totally separated idea of itself. Is like, oh, that's pretty. Like the curves, like, oh yeah, that's pretty. And instead of understanding the actual frequencies of each individual, and the spaces beyond that, everybody's stuck in this that visible light spectrum understanding of reality, and like, oh, this flower, oh that's pretty, never really understanding the nectar of life. So yeah, you can exist, you can be pretty, you can actually even reproduce, because that's pretty, but you won't really get into the nectar. You won't know how, like, these bees find a balance. They go around to these flowers, and they have that relationship to pollinate, based upon, that's a shockwave through the entire life the ecosystem all over the entire world. And when we are locked into, which is what's happening with these low vibrating energies like the television, these long wavelengths of separation, we get into this less than visible light spectrum, that's pretty mode, and really start to downgrade ourselves because we don't know how to find the nectar anymore. We don't know what nectar is. We don't know the benefits of the nectars of life because our nectar has now been downgraded to the visible light spectrum of, oh, that's pretty. We miss the point of our lives, but since the nature of our realities is the visible light spectrum, and the physical reality is part of our reproductive process, then you can create an entire world that is based upon only that, and you can actually downgrade the entire human into a beast. Pretty much, that's what it is. It's an animal, because we have the potentials to experience beyond the prettiness of our reality once we start to understand our connections with the sun, our connections and reflections of the sun and the moon, the stars, the so-called planets, and what those relationships really are. This is why everything is so separate within, like, the university system and astrology and this whole system that's been set up to us. It said this is the end all be all. Like the Food and Drug Administration, their relationship, what they tell you about UV light, UV radiation, your connection with the sun, that's it. That's what it is. That's it. And all of their stuff, all of this FDA stuff, is based upon a sun being 93 million miles away, or billion miles away from you. Is it million or billion? I don't know. It's something stupid. Yeah, so basically it's separating you from light. So that's what, separating you from energy, separating you from yourself, separating you from truly understanding how you are an expression of, you are an actual sun yourself. Like, you emit light, you reproduce creative intelligence, you have a potential that is beyond the university system that we can't understand, because we've been taught to demonize ourselves, demonize each other, separate ourselves from nature, and actually synthetically observe our reality instead of organically experience our reality. Those are two different things, and it's the difference between fear and love. We've been taught to fear the sun, fear the moon. All these vampire movies and all this like Dark Knight stuff and all this, it's just like fear, and you're missing out on the majority of your reality, because your perceptors have been flipped, and the news, the television, the politics, everything is out there to tell you, this is what it's all about, and it's totally backwards. At the same time, they are activating the energies, because they understand. They are playing with those high frequencies, those ultraviolet frequencies, those information waves that exist outside of our observable reality right now, because we've been trained to think that that reality doesn't exist. So if there's like an internet on the ultraviolet spectrum, we won't know it because we've demonized the sun. We've demonized our relationship to nature, and we've completely separated ourselves from even that possibility. Just like if there was a potential of something, obviously there's something going on with these pyramids. If they're not tombs, and a lot of people really feel like they are power generators of some sort, they contain some kind of information, then what is that? And what is that relationship to the human being? And what kind of potentiality will that bring upon when we do realize that that exists, instead of right now just believing that it's all about death? It's just a tomb. And what were those pyramids' connections to obelisks? And what were those obelisks and pyramids' connections to these arcs? And why are they so big? And why are they strategically placed in all over the place? What does all this stuff mean consciously? Because subconsciously, this shit is being flickerated in these movies, in our faces, all the time. And if anybody from the Flat Earth Flat Earth stuff is watching this, and they have access to like mapping stuff out on Flat Earth maps. I don't have those capabilities on this little tablet I have, but it would be interesting to map out the pyramid structures and the arches and these, particularly this image right here, these obelisks that were placed out from 2000 BC to 37 AD to 1831, 1878 to 1880 in New York, and see how they align and the distances and everything on a flat earth map. I was just curious about that and wanted to put that out there. So same goes with these pyramids too. If you have the time or it seems interesting, I would like to see that and see how this whole thing is designed, because there's something there. There's something with the spacing of these power centers and what they mean. And that was basically it I wanted to do for this video. I just wanted to expand outside of the distraction grid of like the politics, and like that is locking you into the separation grid. That's what politics does. It locks you into the FDA kind of relationship to the sun, the FDA understandings of your reality, the generic basic understandings, the synthetic versions of your reality, the fear-based frequency levels of experiencing our reality, never really going into the connective spaces. And the same thing goes with CERN. CERN has something to do with how these they're playing with power is what they're doing. They're trying to play with power, and I'm feeling like CERN has something to do with these relationship stuff, because it's not for nothing. Like, they would invest their, and if they're going to invest their, and the so-called they are going to invest their energy in anything, they're going to try to invest their energy into something that would be synthetically reproducing what was already produced here, in order to make themselves out to be some kind of something that we should look up to or follow, because, you know, they made some new toy or some new something. And if they don't succeed in what their original design was, then they can just reproduce whatever kind of distraction or lies on the television, the same way they got people to go into Iraq to go to war after 9/11. It's the same shit. It's like win-win for them. So as we are seeing this transition space of the power grid move from, it's vulnerable right now, and in this vulnerable space we have the ability to look beyond just what's presented to us. Like CERN has been presented to us during this Mandela effect stuff that's going on, and that is there definitely to distract you from what else. Like, what else is there? What else could there be? Like, what is, that's just like the pretty stuff, like the flower stuff, like the physical reality stuff. They want you to be locked into that, and then instead of pretty, it's fear. So that's why they tell the stories of opening up doorways to let in these demons or whatever. And yeah, basically this is just out there. I wanted to put this video out there to have people reconnect with the nectar, like find out what your nectar of life is, and see that it's beyond this these AM, FM, shortwave, television, microwave realities that we've been bombarded with for so long. And that's actually what the university system is based upon. We're not even allowed to understand the nectar of the visible light spectrum, let alone be able to get good at it like the bees have, and see specifically what is beyond the violet space into the ultraviolet space, because that's been demonized. Like, we are the living gateways in ourselves. That's why I made that video called "Your Mama's a CERN," is because the CERN, they're talking about bringing in energies like your mother, like the actual vagina portal brings in a creator being based upon whatever that soul signature was designed to bring in. And so that is that's an example of what people are already like afraid of. We're being bombarded. Instead of focusing on like one channel on the television, you can see the entire television and the power grid connecting, that's allowing that television to go. Like, CERN is just one channel you can observe as what bringing energies into this reality is all about. But that's not the biggest thing that's going on right here. The biggest energy is the biggest television and frequency emitter is the soul. And what energies the soul is bringing in when you connect with another person and have a baby. And like, you're creating portals. Like, the feminine energy is a portal that I'm seeing that this is where this whole obelisk and arch thing is, the relationship where I'm talking about as far as like bringing in energies. This is a synthetic version. Like, the obelisk is obviously a penis, and the arches is obviously a vagina. So what does that have to do with the power centers of the entire earth plane existence, and our relationship, the human relationship, to our experience, the nectar of life, our maximum potentials here, what's beyond this space, the control grid and how it works to keep us from experiencing that, the energy that we radiate from purely existing, and the potential beyond that existence by actually growing and evolving into the organic space, the organic human reality, not the synthetic, demonizing, beastly version of our reality, but really going into seeing like what's up with all these different versions of light, because they had to create all this shit to make you scared. Like, people are scared. Like, when I when I put this on here, when I put ultraviolet, I'm like, oh, I get sunburned. Like, okay, you get sunburned, but that actually also, like, brings life to, so it's just one side to see the sunburn. If you focus on your sunburn, then you're actually forgetting about all the other sides that are existing right here. Because, like, and this goes into, like, the melanin talk that I was talking about, and the peoples, and the differences within the peoples here on the earth plane, and the absorption of light. Like, melanated people absorb light. Sunscreen on this person's face right here is seen in ultraviolet light on the right side. Is the sunscreen is not blocking, it's not blocking the sunlight. The sunscreen is absorbing the sunlight so that the skin may be able to turn that energy into something beneficial for the individual, instead of burning that person. So on the right side, you can see without sunscreen, that person gets burned. Well, we've been told that sunscreen blocks the light. Sunscreen doesn't do that. Sunscreen absorbs this light and transfers. This is how you can get a suntan when you have sunscreen on. So it's not screening you. It's actually absorbing this light, because you can see, like, in the ultraviolet spectrum, that individual, the right side of his face is black in ultraviolet reality. And the left side of his face is white, because he has no sun absorption lotion on there. That's actually what it is. So we've been taught to demonize this and separate ourselves from truly understanding our relationships to how we observe light, how we experience our reality, who we are, what we are, and what this place is really about. We've been taught to focus on the fear-based, lower vibration sort of CERN. Like, they're just gonna bring in demons and all this other shit. It's like, all right, well, if they are allowed by the Most High energies and the angels to do what people are so afraid of, then what are you as an individual and as the human collective allowed to do as that energy? There has to be a balance. So if the fear frequency is amping up to perceived itself to be doing what it's doing with CERN and with, politics and the New World Order and all that other shit, then what is your potential within the higher frequencies and the shorter, faster wavelengths that exist within your very genetic coding? What is that space? Because they don't want you to tap into that reality. The so-called they want you to be locked into the long wave realities, and just keep listening to the radio. Stay outside of yourself. So once we start reconnecting with who we are, get our power back, get our fire back, step outside of the fear complex, and start to really see what's going on, we'll be able to seek the real nectar of life, and start absorbing light instead of being fearful of it. And people are doing it. This is why I had such a different, like a spread of all these different angles on this one subject. I guess it'll be relating to the nectar of life as the title. But people can go into, like, information is light. Like, you can understand, like, the balances, and when I say light, I'm just talking about energy, not just like light as in not darkness, because darkness is, or the dark light is a balance here. So it's the balances of understandings of light and dark. Not this love and light shit. That's the orchestrated synthetic version of understanding your reality. It's rationalizing your reality, which is actually a further separation. They just go into the surface layers of this shit. It's just like the university system itself. It only skims the surface of observing our reality and says, oh, that's it, I got it, I feel great. You only feel great because you've been feeling like shit your entire life. And the norm in this whole synthetic version of your reality is to feel like shit. So if you start to feel like less shit, which could be like the spectrum of the new age spectrum, that doesn't mean that, you know, that's it. Like, less shit isn't the maximum potential of your reality. That's just feeling better. You can't get to out of that space and just stop there. You have to keep going and keep expanding, which requires more connecting with people. This is why the new age spectrum maxes out at not understanding and only rationalizing, creating prescription drugs to really just disconnect from the rest of the population and just say, oh, I did it, I'm done, I'm good, I do yoga, I eat well, I meditate, I have my crystals, and I'm good. Don't take me out of my box. That is polishing up a turd, and it's very destructive for the individual and the collective as a whole if we don't go beyond that space. It's actually counterproductive if we stay in there for too long, because it does help in finding yourself. And once you do get to that space, if you don't go beyond that space, because yourself is held within the reflection of others, and if you don't understand the otherness of people who are dying on a regular basis on the rest of the world, and having difficulties in their space, if you don't compassionately can understand and understand what's going on and then overstand that reality, then you're just creating another box to exist in. Because this obelisk this obelisk Washington Monument box that we've been placed in all over the colonial program is just another version of separation. There's more to this place. Like, what is this relationship here? What's going on? What were they doing? These aren't just like things that these are energies. These have a meaning. So, and that's just the synthetic version. That's just an introduction to the potential that we have outside of having to synthetically create some kind of portals or doorways. Like, what do we already have access to within our own bodies? Yeah, so that's basically it. I'll leave it there, and thank you for joining me. Until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.